This is plant-based sushi. It's gotten so realistic over the last few years. I mean, look at this vegan fish by Z-Star. It is wild how realistic it is. And now we even have some vegan caviar. This is a seaweed-based caviar. I wanted to try it out and make some mediocre sushi. I'm not a sushi master, but I wanted to see if I can make my own fish and tobiko cheaper. We'll have Monica give it a try and see what she thinks, but let's get moving. Let's make our vegan caviar, our black tobiko. Now this stuff right here, along with most of its competitors, is made with just pretty much seaweed, some like savory extracts, and some sort of like gelatin, like an agar or capicaraginin. Now I will say after tasting these that they taste pretty good. They have like kind of like a roe taste to them, but they're a little too mild. They're good, but they're just too mild. So I think I can fix that. Let's start with some oil. We're gonna be using just a mild oil. I used a frying oil. I wish I wouldn't have. It's just what I had on hand. Fill up a bowl. We're going to need a decent amount and throw that into the fridge. We want this oil cold. Now for our pearls, we're going to be using agar or agar, whatever you call it, and some seaweed. Now there's definitely a few ways of doing this. You can make a kombu broth or you can use nori. I'm going to be using nori. I think that's going to be the easiest in this situation, but kombu broth would work as well. So let's grab the blender. Let's make our nori broth. So I'm going to start, I grabbed my small jar from my blender first, and then once I started with this, I kind of realized it wasn't the best thing to do because I ended up with like nori flakes literally everywhere. I'm trying to like hold onto the jar, but it was a mess. So I needed to switch that out. That's why this happened. So now that we got the jar switched, we're adding our 2 sheets of nori into our jar. Once we get the friggin' lid on, we're gonna add 2 sheets of nori into our jar and then blend up. We just wanna kind of like pulverize this down into a powder. Now we're not gonna go all the way with this. It's not gonna get it fine enough. So we're gonna start adding some cold water. We're just gonna drizzle it in until it kind of starts to, it's not emulsifying, but just blending it. You'll see it start to pick up the nori and slowly start to turn this into like a pulverized broth. It's working better than what I thought it would. I was a little excited. Now with the blender running, we need to make this a little bit more savory and salty. So we're going to be adding some mushroom powder. This is the mushroom extract seasoning that I use. I'll leave a link in the description below for the Amazon store where they sell it. Now at this point, we're just going to be adding some caper brine, a little bit of lemon juice, soy sauce, and then I want to add some richness to it and kind of like bring the color out a little bit more with some pomegranate syrup. So this is blended up really well. At this point, I really want to just test and see what the flavor is. Did we get it savory and salty enough? Which I didn't. It's really good, but it wasn't salty enough. It was definitely savory enough. It had the right flavors. So we're just going to add a little bit more soy sauce. Well, quite a bit more soy sauce. And then I remembered I had this like black charcoal lava salt. Now I know this is a unique ingredient. You don't necessarily have to use this. Like any sort of like charcoal salt or black salt should work here. So now we just need to fight with the lid one more time and then let's get the blender running. We just want to blend this up just to mix it. So now I'm feeling pretty confident with the taste. I think that's pretty good. That's exactly what I wanted. So now we're just going to pour this into a large saucepan, kick the heat up to high. Let's bring that up to a big boil, get that boiling, and then we're going to kick the heat down to low, bring it back down to a simmer, and then add our agar. Add the agar and then whisk it up. Continue whisking until you're confident that it is fully mixed in. We then just want this on a very low simmer for about 10 minutes. At this point, grab your oil from the fridge. It should be nice and cold. Now I'm gonna drip this mixture into the cold oil. That's gonna form the small little beads. The agar will solidify up very quickly. Now I'm gonna be using this meat injector. You can use like an eyedropper. You can even just use like a chopstick and just like a bowl and just kind of slowly drizzle or drip it in there. I've also seen this method used to create these little agar beads and seeing people pour the mixture in while whisking. Now that doesn't create as uniform as a bead. This is going to create a perfect little bead. Now you just want to keep repeating that process until you've used all or most of your agar mixture. Pour the tobiko through a strainer. You can save that oil. I'm just going to pour it right back into a jug. You can see how perfect these came out. I am so excited for them. I'm just going to pour them to a small container so I can save them, give them a little taste, and then just adjust the saltiness at this point. So you can add a little bit more salt if needed, and that's what I'm going to do here. So let's throw this in the fridge.
So right now is a great time for a coffee break, and I'm going to be making some Javy coffee, today's sponsor. Javy coffee is a microdose coffee concentrate. In this bottle is 30 servings of coffee in this one bottle. I can make the perfect cup of coffee in under 30 seconds. All we need is some ice water and about a teaspoon of our coffee concentrate, and that is it. It's so good, it's perfect. You can mix it in cold water, hot water. You can mix it in cream, milk, oat milk, cashew milk, whatever you like. However you want to make your coffee, get creative, go wild, make it how you want. No more drive-thrus, no huge bags of coffee beans. This is it, the taste is amazing. And it's super convenient. It's dairy-free, sugar-free, plant-based, non-GMO, and it's ethically sourced. So So gang, if you love coffee like I do, head over to buy.javycoffee.com/SauceStache and get 25% off your order using my code SauceStache. I'll leave a link in the description below. Make sure you use code SauceStache, 25% off. You can't beat it. This coffee is great. Javy, thanks for sponsoring today's video. I am just loving your coffee. It is so good.
Now it's time to make our sushi rice. We're gonna add 2 cups of medium grain sushi rice to a saucepan and then just bring those right over to the sink because we need to wash this rice out. Now I'm gonna wash this until the water comes mostly clear. Just like what you see here. At this point, I'm just gonna dump out as much of the water as I can. We're gonna throw that on the stove and get it onto a high heat with about 2 cups of cold water. Bring it to a boil. Once it's at a boil, turn it to a medium heat, cover it up, set a timer for about 10 minutes. Realize you're filming this on April 20th at 4:20 p.m. Laugh a little when your pot lets go of a big hit. After 10 minutes, set it to an even lower heat, keep it covered, cook for another 10 minutes, then pull it off the heat and let it rest for 15 minutes. Now let's make our sushi seasoning. We just need some salt, sugar, and rice vinegar, or you can just use any like regular white vinegar. Now let's just mix that up with a regular size whisk that doesn't really fit in this jar. There really is something to be said about using the light a fire method. Now we just want to heat this up. I'm going to throw it in the microwave for about 30 seconds or so. Once it's done, be overly surprised and get ready to enjoy a nice big taste of your sushi vinegar. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. It's vinegar. It's not going to taste great. Now let's get ready to make the rice. Now I'm just going to dump my rice out onto like a small, like thin cutting board. If you don't have one of these, you can honestly just use like a cotton rag or cloth, a kitchen towel, something that's clean. Now my rice was burnt across the bottom. That's my pan and oven's fault. It's a pain I deal with all the time. So I'm going to pick out the burnt bits. I don't want those. The rest of the rice is going to be fine. Now I just want to bring in my rice seasoning and I'm just going to kind of like fan it over. We just want to kind of make sure that it's sprinkled and evenly spread across most of the rice. Add about half of your mixture and then we're going to use like a chopping and folding method with the rice. Once everything's mixed in, give it a taste and make sure you got that seasoning right. It should have like a nice kind of salty and vinegary taste. It's very light, but you want it to have that taste. Now I'm just going to dump it into a bowl and then we're just going to use maybe like another cutting board. You could use whatever you want, but I'm just going to fan it over just to try to cool it down just a little bit. Now it's time to move on to our fish. The vegan Z-Star is probably the most realistic vegan fish that I have seen. This one here is the salmon and it's made out of konjac. Now we've used konjac before in the past using konnyaku. Now this yam cake is almost flavorless. It has a very distinct fishy smell with a very slight fish flavor. There's not much there. It's very mild, which is going to make it nice for like a sushimi type of fish. The smell is a little outrageous at first, but once you prepare it, that smell goes away. To prepare it, we're going to throw it into some boiling water with a little bit of salt for about 15 minutes. We're going to let that cook out and that's going to get rid of a lot of that smell and a lot of that flavor. That's like the calcium that you're smelling in this. Once this is done, we're going to throw it on some ice and allow it to cool down to temperature. Let's slice up our vegan Z-Star. Now we're going to be slicing this into long strips along with, I'm going to top the sushi with some thin slices. Now I sliced this pretty thin. I actually sliced it a little bit too thin. That's okay. And we're going to prepare the konnyaku cake the exact same way. We're going to slice it into the strips to go into the sushi and then slice it thin for a topping. Now I'm just going to be making some pretty simple sushi. We're going to prepare a cucumber. Now when you prepare cucumber for sushi, I like to take the middle part out. It's gonna just a ton of water, really. That's all you do. And then just gonna slice this into like matchsticks. It's pretty easy to get cucumber sushi ready. Now lately I've just been slicing my avocado right in half, just right through the seed, but this time it didn't really work, so I don't really recommend doing that. Anyways, go ahead and peel your avocado back till you get 2 halves, slice it up into individual little slices, and then let's start making some sushi. So I just have a really inexpensive bamboo sushi rolling mat, and I'm just gonna cover it with some cellophane, some plastic wrap. That just makes it easier. Nothing sticks to it, doesn't get it dirty or mess it up. Now I'm going to take a piece of nori, and now nori has a shiny side and kind of like a rough side. They're both a little shiny, but you want to put the shiny side on the outside, especially if you're doing a seaweed outside roll, which is what I'm doing. And again, take the rest of this with a grain of salt because I am definitely not a sushi master. I am a making good sushi at home maker is my equivalent. Yeah. So I have a little cold water to the side and I have my sushi rice. We're going to dip our hands in the cold water. That makes it easier to manipulate the sushi rice because it is really sticky. Go ahead and take your sticky rice or your sushi rice and then spread it evenly out across your nori. Now it's time to top it. We're just going to top it with our fish, a little bit of the cucumber, some of the avocado, make sure it's all spread out fairly even. Now I'm kind of going towards the back 75% of the nori here. Now I actually kind of messed up. I added the rice all the way to the very end. Wasn't necessary actually. If I would have left a little bit of room at the end, it would have made it a prettier wrap. I think that was where I messed up. Let's finish building this roll. We're going to stand back and look at it with some disappointment because this is a very, this is not a great looking roll. And I know that. I told you from the beginning, I'm not a sushi master. That's not what we're testing here. So now that we've made our expensive sushi roll, we're gonna top it with our store-bought black tobiko, continue being disappointed with what we made. Now let's make our cheap roll. We're just gonna make it the exact same way. The homemade black tobiko is a little bit larger, so it's not sticking as well as I would have liked it to, but it's still actually holding up pretty good. And again, you could see this roll is a nightmare of a roll, but we're gonna get the flavors right. That's what matters. It's gonna taste good. Now let's see what Monica has to say.
This is delicious.
Wow.
Sushi.
Tastes like sushi.
Feels like sushi, texture like sushi. Amazing.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. It was incredible how good that was. It tasted just like sushi. So now I want to taste the homemade one with the homemade roe and the super inexpensive, just store-bought konnyaku and see, is it just like sushi too?
That's also amazing.
Same, right?
Yeah, this is really good. This one is amazing too, but the roe kind of had like, it stuck in my teeth a little bit.
Okay.
This one didn't. Like, this one was really like kind of softer and just reminded me more of sushi.
There it is. I mean, it really was. It was really surprising about how good the cheap store-bought konnyaku with the homemade roe came out. I mean, it was just dramatically better than the store-bought vegan sushi. Both of them, though, were absolutely incredible. Like, both of them would definitely please a sushi roll lover.